All right, as we continue tracking Ian, we are seeing more of the damage it left behind on Florida's East Coast. This is a look at the damage in Flagler Beach, which is about 20 miles north of Daytona Beach. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office took this video of damage around a building that was under construction.
And you can see that damage, not just in Flagler County, but again, that's on the East Coast. The amount of damage we're seeing out of Florida is remarkable, and the cleanup, just hard to imagine how long it's going to take and how many lives have been affected by this. We want to go to Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank tonight. This is now going up the East Coast, over the Atlantic Ocean, into Charleston. Can people in Charleston expect damage similar to that, or because of the wind speeds, not even close?
No, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about. This is going to be a Category 1 hurricane for them, not a Category 3 or a Category 4. So let's kind of go through the different categories of hurricanes. During a Category 1 hurricane, you're looking at some snapped large tree limbs, some weak trees can start to come down, and power can come off for days, but then it gets back online again. This is nowhere near what we were dealing with a Category 3 hurricane. That's what made landfall in Cuba, and that's when you're talking about, think about tornado damage, but instead of occurring over a very narrow path, over areas that are miles and miles wide, taking the roofs off well-constructed homes. And a Category 4 hurricane, well, now you're talking about the images that you're seeing out of Fort Myers, Florida, not only taking weeks to months to get things back up and running, but areas that are completely uninhabitable for a time. And I think that some of the images that we're seeing in Southwest Florida, we haven't even had a full picture of just yet. We're getting drone shots, but with bridges and roads that are completely washed away, it's tough to even get boots on the ground in some of these locations. So nowhere near the Category 3 that hit Cuba or the Category 4 hurricane that hit Southwest Florida. But a Category 1 hurricane is still a decent storm, and it's still going to cause some damage. Let's take a look. This is Hurricane Ian. As of the 8 o'clock advisory, 75-mile-per-hour winds. The storm is moving to the north-northeast at 10, but it is expected to start to lean to the northwest a little bit here over time, and also strengthen in intensity, making landfall as a Category 1 with winds around 80 miles per hour, maybe a little bit greater than that. And I was just talking about the winds, but we're also considering some storm surge too, which I'll mention more on in just a little bit. This storm can make landfall anywhere from around Charleston all the way up through Myrtle Beach, having to consider the entire cone of uncertainty there, so to speak. Now, unlike when the storm made landfall on the west coast of Florida, where we saw the worst storm surge south of where the storm made landfall, it's the opposite this time around. Because remember, storm surge is caused when you take those winds and you push them onshore. This time it'll be on the northern side of where the storm makes landfall. So if the storm ends up making landfall, for example, in Charleston, it may be Myrtle Beach that ends up getting the worst storm surge. And where the storm ends up making landfall, we're thinking that the storm surge could be anywhere between 4 to 6 feet. That would be kind of a reasonable worst case scenario. And there's that flooding rain in a large tract across Florida. What about here close to home? Tricky forecast. We see increasing clouds tomorrow, but we stay dry. As that rain starts to come north, it gets blocked by an area of high pressure. So I think we end up seeing a really sharp rainfall gradient during the day on Saturday, meaning that areas to the north of Connecticut may get little or nothing at all. And it might be a super soaker for areas south of Hartford towards the shoreline. I mean, thank goodness this is not a snowfall forecast, because it could be anywhere between 0.2 of an inch of rain and 2 inches of rain north to south. Either way, I would say plan on some rain, cool temperatures during the day on Saturday. If you're spending the day in Springfield at the Big E, it's not going to be as much rain as towards the Connecticut shoreline, where it could be raining pretty steadily and heavily off and on through the day. If you're in the middle, again, it's going to be that tougher call figuring out where the heavy rain ends and where things start to get drier. For Sunday, it's looking breezy, chilly, raw, a gusty wind too, and then heading back to next week, slowly rising temperatures, guys.